Hey everyone, this is Bryan with another tribute to my grandpa. Today I want to talk a little more about how we interact with our grandparents or with the elderly generation in our lives. As a young kid, I always enjoyed being around my grandparents. My grandpa and my grandma, even my grandma on my other side, they're just typically good conversations. And so when I grew up and was an adult and had my own life and wasn't just living under the roof of my parents, and then when I got married, I always really enjoyed talking with my grandparents. Maybe I liked the storytelling, maybe I liked what they had to share, but I feel like I've always really enjoyed that. I believe that if you are currently maybe struggling or feeling like you're going through some hard times or some challenging times, or if you just want a different perspective on things, I think you need to go find someone that is in their 80s or higher and just talk with them. Not necessarily if you have a struggle that you want to talk to them about, great, but if not, I think that's a great thing that would bring some massive value to your life. And so while I usually share a personal story, I have countless. And I know that when we have conversations, there are many conversations you have with people that you know and love just this last 2 or 3 weeks that you couldn't necessarily quote. I've had innumerable conversations with my grandpa and my grandma about things from finances to life to getting married to kids to house. I mean, it's all there. And I really appreciated the conversations I was able to have with my grandma and grandpa. My grandpa was just one of those guys that listened well and cared and would give you good feedback. He led a very intentional life. He was particular, very strategic in what that he did, and I highly value that. So I would like to invite you to find someone that is over 80 years old that you know, whether that's family member or not, depending on your relationships with these people. I recommend that you go sit down with them this week and just have a conversation with them. You'll find some really cool insight, and if you have a curious mind and ask them questions about things that matter to them, you're going to find some things that actually help solve your own problems. And anyways, I love that. I want to share a poem with you today that I think is really funny. My grandpa, in our religion, he was a high priest. And what that means is typically they're older, but they've actually had some callings where they've had leadership capacities and help. If you imagine just someone that helps out a lot of people in your church, that's what his rank or status, that's not really what we would call it, but maybe that makes sense for most people that might not know that. So when he talks about high priest, he's talking about a group of men that are typically older, and they got together and have some parties. So I think you'll enjoy this sage wisdom and some fun for my grandpa and his poem about the high priest social. I hope you'll enjoy it, and I will see you next week.
This is the high priest social. Every November since I can remember, a social is held in the stake. It's for the high priest. There's always a feast, right down to the ice cream and cake. I'll never forget one year that we met for the usual ham and green beans. The sermons were boring, many were snoring, and some were beginning to lean. Then one man fell dead. He'd lit on his head when he fell from his chair in his sleep. The program was stalled. 911 was called. The women were starting to weep. The medics came through, a punctual crew, but soon they stood shaking their head. They'd searched high and low, they'd looked to and fro, but they couldn't tell which man was dead.